Hi everyone, welcome back to the Dennis Learning Center YouTube channel. My name is Jennifer Perez and I'm a third-year undergraduate student with a major in psychology and minors in both Spanish and criminal justice. I have been an academic coach here at the Dennis Learning Center for about a year or so now, and as an academic coach, I meet with Ohio State students individually to help create unique evidence-based learning strategies catered to their needs. Our end goal is always to help them become better students and more motivated learners. I wanted to be transparent and say that I am also a first generation college student, which means that I'm going to be one of the first in my family to graduate with a college degree. Yes, this has been as amazing as it sounds, but it's also come with numerous difficulties that sometimes still occur to me today. Personally, I struggled a lot with the transition from my high school to an out of state university setting, especially one as large as The Ohio State University. Honestly, it took me quite a while to adapt to my university and make friends and know how to network and work through managing imposter syndrome and much, much more. However, when I became an academic coach with the Dennis Learning Center and I started meeting with other first gen students, I very quickly realized how similar some of our stories were and some of our struggles were. And because of this, I made it a goal of mine this year to ensure that I can help other first gen students feel integrated and well connected at a university, specifically the Ohio State University. And one way to feel connected is through your social capital. Okay, so what is social capital? Social capital is all about building your own personal success team. Because honestly, very quickly into college, I realized that it's not only just about what you know, which takes you to many far, far places, it's also about who you know. So building your own personal success team extends way past just attending your professor's office hours. It also includes making sure that you're attending new org or club meetings, meeting with your advisor here and there, really just trying to build some emotional, academic, and social support. In order to start building this social network and building this social capital, it's really important to recognize what is currently important to you right now and what are some end goals of yours, such as like, where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? And what do you need to do in order to get yourself there? Building your own personal network is all based on your support. You want to be surrounded by people who support you and who are going to help you reach these end goals. So before diving into creating this new personal network of yours, be sure to know what it is exactly that you need and what is it that you want. To dive deeper into what exactly is social capital and how you start gaining access to it, I should start by saying that there are three aspects that form social capital. They are bonds, bridges, and linkages. These are all related to forming a connection and expanding your social web in some way or another. To start off, there's bonds, and think of those as maybe your closest relationships, typically based on a cultural connection. So that can be your friends or your family. And then with bridges, these extend a little bit farther than just a cultural connection, but there is a shared connection between you and the other person. So this could be classmates, colleagues, associates, people of that sort. And then linkages, which may be the hardest to obtain. These are connections to people that are maybe a bit higher or lower than you on the social ladder. So these can be executives in your workforce, professors, advisors, people who you maybe view as a mentor or someone that you really go to for informational help. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about bonds now. Bonds, if you remember me previously saying, are those more personal and culturally based connections. They generally include friends, family, and other loved ones. And personally, I really like discussing this type of bond or relation with other first generation students because it is a challenge to many first generation students to not be able to turn to their loved ones when asking for information and support in regards to their college experience. And I really like to emphasize that it's important to sit down and have a good conversation about what it is you need from them and how it is that they can best support you. But things work both ways. Remember that this is not just a new experience for you, it's also a new experience for them. So make sure that you're also listening to their concerns. And if needed, create new boundaries that fit your new school work and just new life schedule. So now that I've emphasized ensuring that you have that support from back home, it's important to remember that you also have friends and peers on campus that are willing to support you just as much as you are willing to support them. So if you're like me and home happens to be a few states away, it's time to make some new friends. And one of the best ways that people make friends is by going to org meetings, going to these club meetings, and kind of finding that connection based on a shared like or interest. So luckily, Ohio State has over 1,000 clubs and organizations, and you're bound to find one that's fitting for you. There's involvement fairs and online resources that are very beneficial in looking for something that fits you the best way. Research has really shown that students who surround themselves with other students that are interested in the same things as them and who are on similar paths to them, career academically, they tend to be a bit more persistent and resilient in their college life and career. So it's really important to find your place on campus in addition to receiving support from home. You want support back home and between classes. All right, so now to expand your social capital a little bit farther, I'm going to start talking about bridges. So bridges, they extend a bit past those close personal connections I discussed when talking about bonds previously. They are more your classmates, your associates, colleagues, people of that sort. They are people that you turn to for social and academic support and are extremely important connections to make in college. Before I start talking about some tips on how to form these bridges, I would like to emphasize why forming these bridges is extremely crucial for first generation students specifically, and why we might feel that we struggle a bit more in this department in comparison to other students. Many first generation students come from communities that are extremely interpersonal. And what I mean by this is we work together to reach an end goal in a majority of our situations. However, when coming to a university setting, it tends to be the exact opposite, especially if you are going into STEM majors. Many first generation students tend to be less resilient in their courses or give in a little bit sooner because they do not have that social support, because they feel that people are out to get them and a bit too socially independent, or more so than what they are used to from back home. So it's just something that I would like to emphasize prior to discussing bridges, because it's extremely important to recognize that if you're feeling this way, it is completely normal, and I went through the exact same thing. That being said, let's get into some tricks on how to start forming these bridges. So it is beyond helpful to make connections within your classes because it keeps you more motivated and persistent within the course. So one of the biggest tips that I can give is to ensure that you have a classmate buddy, to make sure that you kind of are there for each other if you need some missing notes, or if you have a quick question, or to hold each other accountable with assignments and deadlines, things of that sort. It's always great to have a partner within the class because you feel like you're not going through it alone. One of the biggest tips from the DLC that I utilize myself is creating accountability groups with other students in my class. And honestly, just my friends in general. When it comes to reaching deadlines, sometimes things slip my mind. And so I like to tell someone else about them, and they'll share their deadlines with me. And we kind of keep each other on track to work with each other virtually, or if it's my roommates, we use our dining room table and just make sure we are doing the work that we said we were going to do on time. However, I know things look a little bit different right now with distance learning and courses being online for many students. But it's important to recognize that you can still introduce yourself to other students online. It may just be a little bit more nerve-wracking for some because you are sending a message to somebody you never met in person. But for other people, it might be a little bit easier to do that because it's completely or almost a little bit anonymous to some. But basically, a lot of students right now have been utilizing GroupMe a lot to keep each other on track, and holding accountability groups and hosting virtual study group sessions. Things I know are a little bit different, and we're all working through them together. And Especially right now, it's important that you have small group with or a small group of classmates within your class um, to keep you motivated and persistent within your courses. One thing that I will say, I know right now it is huge to use GroupMe with classmates, and typically, like, it is with the majority of the class or so, which is completely okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It is just important to warn you that with these mass group messages, be careful to follow professor guidelines and only discuss what you're allowed to discuss with one another. You do not want to get caught up in an academic integrity or misconduct situation. So please be careful and make sure you only discuss what is allowed. All right, so one final tip I can give on forming bridges is I know it can be very scary and intimidating to introduce yourself to someone new, but it's important to recognize that you're honestly lifting a weight off of the other person's shoulders. In college, it's always helpful to have a classmate to go through the course with, and everybody is honestly kind of waiting for that person to introduce themselves first or take that first step forward. So, yeah, just make sure to be comfortable with being a bit uncomfortable, and it will help both of you in the long run. It's a win-win situation for everybody, and you will very quickly learn and get used to this. All right, so last but not least, the last part of social capital and possibly the most difficult type of connection to make is a linkage. So linkages are connections to people who are higher or lower to you on the social ladder. And I believe that when people think of networking, this is the most common type of networking that they think of. But remember, everything that we talk about today is part of your network. But some examples of linkages are advisors, professors, and even executives in your workplace. All right, so how to connect with faculty. In terms of professors and instructors, the simplest way to connect is to participate in class. I know that within a lot of our lecture halls, we are sitting next to a few hundred students. And so it can be a bit difficult to stand out of the crowd. And that's why it's extremely important that you stay engaged and participate in class. And this means more than just raising your hand and agreeing with another student's comments. This is, adding to what another person said. This may be answering a question, asking a question, or making sure that you're participating in groups actively, things of that sort. So be sure to participate in class to make yourself stand out and get the professor to remember your name, remember your face, all of that. Another option in connecting with your professors and instructors is attending their office hours. They all have them and they're there for a reason. They want you to show up and make that extra connection with them, get to know them on another personal level outside of the classroom. With showing up to office hours, be sure to show up with a purpose. When you arrive, introduce yourself and come prepared with some questions beforehand, either from a previous homework assignment or lecture, whatever it is that you may have. It shows that you're dedicated and really determined to work in the course and gives off a really good impression. So last but not least, there's also involvement and career/internship fairs that are offered on campus in the beginning of every single semester. So be sure to look out for those and attend them. But beforehand, similarly to attending office hours, be sure to come prepared. So research the tables that will be there. They always give out a list. So see who you want to talk to beforehand and come prepared with some questions. Make sure to be engaged in the conversation and not leave it up to them to lead the conversation. You want to make it, you want to show that you came prepared and are eager to work with that person specifically. Okay, so just to review really quick, social capital is all about building your own personal success team. So be sure that you are surrounding yourself with people who are going to support you in all areas of your life, whether it's back home, on campus, in your work area, wherever it may be. Make sure that you feel supported and that you are maintaining resilience in all those areas. So before I completely conclude the video, I just want to say that speaking to other first generation students is something that I absolutely love and something I hold really close to my heart because if you know me, you know that I went through a lot of very tough times when it came to my transition into college at The Ohio State University. And it came with a lot of tough learning lessons. And I want to make sure that I'm sharing all those lessons that I learned, you know, in order to prevent these situations from occurring in other students' lives, or at least to be able to help other students navigate through the situations that are almost always inevitable. If you enjoyed this video and would like to learn more about the Dennis Learning Center and more tips and tricks from us, please like and subscribe or check out our website at dennislearningcenter.orcu.edu.